Pepsi, it's bigger than you know. Introduced as a soda served at restaurants that had soda fountains, Pepsi-Cola was adopted very quickly and people started to love it. That's the short story of the drink. But Pepsi isn't just a name for a carbonated beverage, it's a global brand that's much bigger than most people even realize. And today, I'm going to unveil to you the bigger picture behind this brand. So stick around to the end of the video to find out. Hey guys, welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we're going to explore the details of Pepsi's empire and how it's even bigger than you probably thought. There's so much in there that you need to know. So without any further ado, let's get started. The story of Pepsi began when a pharmacist developed a syrup that could be used in a soda fountain to make and serve Pepsi-Cola, which it was initially named. The experiments of selling the drink by pouring it through the fountain was quite successful, so the pharmacist closed his drugstore and using the same formula started selling Pepsi-Cola in bottles. The business was going very well before World War I erupted. The way the war impacted the Pepsi-Cola business was by increasing the cost of production. You might ask how. So I'll tell you. The major content of the drink that you enjoy is actually sugar. And World War I caused the prices of sugar to rise, making it infeasible for Coca-Cola's owners to operate. After running the business successfully for a few years, the developer of the very first syrup for Pepsi filed for bankruptcy and went back into his pharmacy business. The business concept was viable and everyone had already seen the potential it carried, so after the first bankruptcy was filed, Pepsi-Cola was bought by somebody with all the rights and trademark claims to the formula syrup. But he also failed and filed for bankruptcy, and in the end, a third lucky man named Charles Guth bought the dying company. I must say that the man was very courageous for investing in a company that had already failed two of its owners. But then luck also favors those who dare to leap, doesn't it? The third owner was so successful that he made Pepsi reach new heights that no one had ever imagined. And once they got their strategy right and Pepsi started to sell again, new additions to the company's product line were made. Each of these additions were accepted by consumers with open arms. For example, a new drink that Pepsi came up with was Diet Pepsi. Even though Coke was the leading brand when it came to carbonated drinks, still Pepsi achieved this milestone of introducing the diet version of the drink very early as compared to Coke. But then again, Pepsi is popular, and we're here to discuss not just the product line, but the fact that Pepsi is much bigger than just a few mainstream drinks. Pepsi is just a single brand of PepsiCo. The company owns many other successful brands like Mountain Dew, but still that's not all. PepsiCo isn't just among the big leagues, but shares the list with many other Fortune 500 companies earning more than $1 billion. How did they get there? Well, let's talk about it. There is no doubt that Pepsi started as a company that used to sell just Pepsi-Cola, but not today. From owning Mountain Dew, a very popular and beloved energy drink among young people globally, to their snack brands, there are several subsidiaries of PepsiCo today, and each of them contributes to making the company even bigger. It's not like Pepsi always owned these brands, but during different eras, whichever brand felt like it would help Pepsi was snatched right up by PepsiCo. But obviously for Pepsi, it's the beverage department that earns them the most revenue. Their beverage product line is quite diverse. PepsiCo owns Gatorade, Mountain Dew, and Mirinda, to name a few. And move away from fizzy drinks, and there's Aquafina, Pepsi's own mineral water company. And also two of the most popular juice companies are owned by Pepsi, including Tropicana and Naked. So now that we've learned a little bit about the beverages, let's see what they have to offer with food. You'll find this fascinating, but PepsiCo isn't restricted to just selling beverages. PepsiCo also owns Frito-Lay, a company that manufactures chips. Frito-Lay is quite successful, and they are a subsidiary, like I said, of Pepsi. They're so big that they would still have great standing in the business world even if they were not owned by Pepsi. In fact, previously they were operating as an individual company that manufactured snacks. Pepsi thought of it as a great business merger, not only because it would bring in good money, but as we all know, chips and drinks are some of the best combinations out there. So the idea was to bring to market both products side by side and get an upward push in revenue figures. Though the marketing stunt was blocked and Pepsi really couldn't use it, Frito-Lay still turned out to be a great investment for Pepsi. Other snack brands owned by Pepsi include Cheetos, Doritos, Sabritas, and Tostitos. What that means is that when you enter the snack aisle of the department store, more than half the snacks sold there are coming directly from Pepsi. Surprised? Well, it's not just the snacks aisle. There isn't a store in the world that can claim to not have anything from Pepsi. That's how big they are. Imagine, who would have thought that a company that grew by selling beverages, one of the most unhealthy foods you can consume, would also be selling cereal? Yep, you heard me right. Pepsi owns Quaker Foods, and under this subsidiary, Pepsi manufactures and sells so many types of cereals. The famous brands include Quaker Oats and, of course, Captain Crunch. I am still simply amazed by the fact that we have discussed so many brands and subsidiaries owned by Pepsi, and still, we're not done yet. There was a time when Pepsi ventured into the world of fast food. The idea behind that wasn't to start a chain of their own. It was simply that Pepsi thought if they could own the fast food chain, they could put their own beverages for sale and earn it. Honestly, if you ask me, it's a brilliant idea, but unfortunately it didn't turn out to be as beneficial as Pepsi thought. Pepsi was able to implement the plan that they made to buy big fast food chains like Pizza Hut, Taco Bell, and KFC. The reason why the idea of selling their own drinks at fast food restaurants didn't work was because Coke was directly competing with them. As the only direct competitor for Pepsi, they started making their own product available to every food outlet. And every day, Coke was bringing new restaurants on board. So Pepsi decided to leave the industry and went back to making beverages. Pepsi signed mergers with the new investors who were interested in buying the chains once Pepsi owned them. Okay, so the thing is, Pepsi was a beverage company, and seeing it venture into different sectors and industry was shocking. But considering that each of these brands were somehow related to food, I thought that makes sense. But I'm gonna tell you something else, and honestly, I want you to understand the rationale behind this move. PepsiCo also owned a logistical company named North American Moving Services. And PepsiCo also once owned Wilson, the sports equipment manufacturing company. And from the outside, no one can understand why that happened. But the reason Pepsi acquired Wilson was to use its image for its own brand. And in return, Wilson was going to get the financial support they needed from PepsiCo. Each of these mergers, subsidiaries, and companies have all played crucial roles in helping them reach the level they have today. After all, it's not like all the ventures of Pepsi were successful. But the fact that PepsiCo diversified their investments into acquiring businesses from various industries really helped them become the mammoth empire that they are today. On that note, I'll end the video here. I hope you liked it. If you did, please let me know by giving it a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.